La 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 la, la la la. Inspired by true events, the greatest podcast to be broadcast into your brain.
Welcome, welcome. This is Inspired by Movies, the podcast where we talk about movies and the real stories that inspired them. My name is MK. My pronouns are they, them.
My name is Emily, and my pronouns are she, her.
And my name is Courtney, or Pancake, or Cake, and my pronouns are she, they.
So we are sitting in this badass pod. What are we calling it? The porta potty.
It's the porta potty. Griff and I kind of bounced off some names off of each other. We did a little brainstorm. There were a lot of different names, but I landed on porta potty. And at first I was saying it as a joke, just blurting it out, and then it was
but
it's a portable pod. Portable potty.
It's
It's a porta potty. The way that we used to do this in our place was actually drilling into the ceiling, and sorry landlord, I woke up with the idea of making a cube out of PVC pipes. It was one of those ideas that actually worked.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's truly brilliant.
I always
Plus
wanted to build
blanket
a
fort.
really cool blanket fort.
Yeah, it's like the yurt at my house, but way better executed.
I love your yurt, but I'm
This is easier to sit in.
we have limited space in this household, so
Indeed.
so being able to take it up and down easily was key.
It's perfect, you know?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I'm happy about it.
Well done.
Yeah, it's fucking rad. Well done, babe.
I finished a project.
You did!
Yeah!
I told her, I'm like, maybe you should take some engineering classes or something, but she said she's too creative. All right.
Hell yeah.
Today, we are talking about the movie Fire in the Sky. But first, alien abductions throughout history. So, alien abduction, or sometimes called abduction phenomenon, alien abduction syndrome, or...
Syndrome? Is that... explain syndrome to me. Nah, you're fucking nuts? Or, something that happened to your body?
They reporting in what they believe to be the real experience. So it's like a syndrome because it's happened to multiple people.
Huh.
That's the only thing I can think of. You know, we all know what alien abduction is, and we all know what they do to us when we're there. Really, from as far back as humans, there is documentation of aliens and, UFOs and shit.
Foreign spacecraft and what
So-
have you.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Aren't there theories that the human race was implanted from another planet?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I've also heard a theory that, aliens are just us from the future.
I've also heard that.
They're let's put some apes on this planet and see what happens.
Yeah. We'll visit them every so often.
So yeah, alien abductions have been around forever. Even in the cave paintings, it looked like there were arrows pointing to livestock and stuff. Stories of alien abduction came to international prominence in the 1950s and 1960s. But there is kind of a debate among researchers about how far back reported alien abductions go back. Researchers come from this more skeptical side of things. They always say arguing that they can be best understood as expressions of folklore or various psychological phenomena. Because of that time where there's a lot more sci-fi movies, it makes sense that you're oh, I see something weird, it's a UFO. You know, that's the only explanation that can come to mind if it's unidentified because of those movies, because of those images. There are two main claims that really had a lot of attention. It was the Antonia Villas-Boas case in 1957 in Brazil and the Hill abduction case from the USA in 1961. Peter Rogerson argues that this is not true. He says that these are the first canonical abduction cases that establish like an actual template from which researchers would refine but rarely deviate. So it's just kind of like the same old story, like a basic outline, which I thought was an interesting way to put it.
That is interesting.
Yeah. He said that there were abductions stories as early as 1954. A quote from this guy, Rogerson, Peter Rogerson. Peter Rogerson. He says, "The growth of abduction stories is far more than a tangled affair than the entirely predisposed official history would have us believe." He was one of those skeptic investigators. Thomas E. Ballard, he argued that alien abductions in the 70s, like what I said in the 70s, 80s, are because of the fiction. You know, Laura Knight Jadjic detects similarities between alien abductions, fairy abductions, and alleged actions by incubi and succubi in folklore. So I feel like a lot of people are like, this is more lore than anything. Okay. And I think that's another reason why people see it is because of this lore. You know, for some reason, the earlier count of alien abductions have been dubbed as paleo abductions. So here are just some before the two like big ones that kind of started it all. One attempted abduction in conjunction with mysterious airships. It was in the late 19th century. This was from an article in Stockton, California, Daily Mail in 1897. Colonel H.G. Shaw, he claimed that he and his friends were being harassed by 3-foot-tall, slender humanoids whose bodies were
harassed by something so teeny
being harassed. I know, 3-foot-tall humanoids whose bodies were covered in downy hair.
Oh, ew!
I know.
Downy?
So just like soft or fine. Yeah.
So they're like this tall.
Yeah, and they're probably like a little bit taller than that air purifier.
How many were there? Did you say?
There were 2 or 3. And
what were they doing?
They were trying to kidnap them. They were accosting them and trying
what they were.
Oh my goodness!
They're like, "Come here."
And it was him and his friends?
What?
And it was this guy and his friends?
Yeah, it was a guy and another friend.
Yeah. And were they grown adults at this
point?
point?
They were in the military. This guy's a colonel.
This is amazing.
I know.
So these 2 adult men in the military are being accosted by these 2 or 3 3-foot-tall, downy, hairy creature, humanoids.
I wanted, like, the image that came to mind was Cousin It. That's the only thing I could, like, think
beautiful.
of. I don't know how long their hair was.
See, I imagined, like, quote-unquote, downy hair. I don't like that phrase.
Bear?
Yeah, like a down, like
a baby
like
duck.
Soft. Yeah.
Like a fluffy, like it's just like a tiny humanoid creature covered in duck fluff. So they were adult humans.
But these obviously dudes were able to fight them off. Nothing happened.
Did they just run away?
They just ran off.
Oh my goodness.
Or the guys ran away. I like this one too. So in 1951, Frank Regan, he was piloting a small plane, and he claimed that he was struck by a UFO. He said the occupants resembled metallic stalks of asparagus.
What?
Excuse me? What? Were the Veggie Tales in that?
We are the aliens that don't do anything. We just stay at home and fly around.
We just stay in our ship and attack other humans' ships.
Right. Oh, no, wait, this is the best part. They apologized and tried to cure his cancer.
The aliens?
While we're here... Would you like us to cure your cancer?
They exchange insurance information.
Oh my god.
It's like, oh my god, I am so sorry.
Wait, so he hit his plane?
Yeah, they crashed into his plane.
And they both landed.
I'm assuming so.
And they apologized?
Yeah, and then the aliens apologized.
And they were like, oh, hey, by the way, I can tell.
They're like, we know you have
seem
cancer.
like the kind of guy who would have cancer.
Yeah, but they didn't, and he died not too longer after that encounter.
Oh.
At least they apologized. I love that they apologized.
I love that they apologized. Metallic asparagus. We are the aliens who don't do anything. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just stay at home and crash into planes.
They clearly don't fly a whole lot either, because if they're crashing into planes...
They're like, the one time we're allowed to take out the ship.
They're teenagers and they crash land on Earth.
Yeah.
My mom's gonna kill me.
Like, fuck. You know. This one's called The Shaver Mystery. It happened in the 1940s. So there was this editor, Ray Palmer. He wrote a letter to Richard Sharp Shaver about his experience, asking about his experience. And he wrote back with a 10,000 word document entitled A Warning to Future Man.
Wow.
Yeah. So he wrote the letter in 1943. Shaver was abducted by these creatures, and he claimed that he was held there for a few years. So Shaver wrote of an extremely advanced prehistoric race that built cavern cities underneath the Earth's surface. They abandoned it and moved to another planet due to damaging radiation from the sun, which I'm like, okay.
Wait, did you say that they built them underground?
Yeah, underneath the Earth's surface.
But damaging...
Exactly.
Oh, okay. All right. That was your point.
That's why it's like,
That makes me think about, I don't know if you got that far in Doctor Who, but the lizard people.
That's what this reminded me of.
Did you literally just say that and
No.
I didn't catch it?
No, I didn't say it. But that's exactly what... I'm glad that you said that, actually, because I was like, where does this remind me is Doctor Who?
Yep.
Do you know about that chick being buds with Doctor Who and turns out she's lesbian?
Oh, the lizard girl? Yeah. I do remember that, because I remember we were like, ooh.
Yeah, I was like, you're gonna love her.
And I
She's
did.
a badass.
The original prehistoric race that built the caverns, when they left, they also abandoned some of their offspring. So they were there, but there were only a few that remained good, and those ones were called the Taros. But the other ones became mentally impaired sadists, and those are known as the Daros. It's short for detrimental robots. And Shaver's use of the word robots, it wasn't meaning it in a mechanical sense. It was more like it was due to their savage behavior, because they were fucking evil. So this is some of the stuff that he claimed that they did. Their ancestors left a ray gun that they used. I need to get a picture of your face. They had a ray gun, and they used it to spy on us and projected voices in our minds.
With a ray gun?
Okay. A lot of misfortunes could be blamed on the Daros. Minor injuries or illnesses, plane crashes, catastrophic events, natural disasters, and violence towards women.
So they're the devil? Like, that's...
I'm just gonna start blaming all of my minor inconveniences on the Daros.
Oh, and schizophrenia, because they use the ray gun to project voices and thoughts into our minds.
Oh, okay. All right. That's interesting theory. How would it be responsible for violence towards women?
Yeah, I'm like...
And is it just women?
It says, women especially were singled out for brutal treatment, Mike Dash notes that the sadomasochism was one of the prominent themes in Shaver's writings. I think the reason why is because of society's brutal treatment of women.
Okay.
Yeah.
They created sexism?
Yeah.
Or at least misogynistic.
Yeah.
Why are they so mean?
They're evil, man.
Wait, well, who are the good ones again?
The Taros.
All right, Taros.
Yeah, there's still not a lot left. It's just like in Doctor Who, how most of them were evil, but then there was the one that helped him out.
Yep.
You know, I wonder if that's how he escaped, is...
With one of the Taros.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he says that they sometimes traveled with spaceships or rockets, but they mainly stayed to their caves.
I bet that was one of the guys who crashed into that plane.
No, because they wouldn't have apologized. Or the Taros.
The Taros would have apologized.
Oh, and they kidnapped humans for meat or torture.
What the hell?
I know. I imagine the, Darrows looking like the creatures from The Fifth Element.
Which ones?
The ones that are
Oh, the big, slimy ones?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Right? Yeah.
And then, I don't know why, but I'm imagining the Taros looking like the fish guy from Hellboy.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh, here, hold on. This guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The Taros. Which is kind of funny because Terra is earth, dirt stuff.
That makes sense.
Fish guy.
Makes me think of The Shape of Water.
I've never seen that one.
Never seen that either.
I don't know if I want to.
Why?
I don't know.
Because
bestiality is a sin.
Okay.
Okay, then I'm gonna just briefly talk about the two that are the two that first gained worldwide attention. So the first one is Betty and Barney Hill. I wrote it as Betty and Benny, but it's Barney. So Benny and Barney Hill abduction. So Benny and Barney every time.
Actually.
1961 that this happened. Betty and Barney Hill, they were driving home from a vacation in Niagara Falls. Betty said that she saw what she thought was a falling star. So she was like, oh, pull over. We gotta let the dog out anyway. Let's watch this thing. But they looked through binoculars, and Barney said he thought it was a commercial airplane. But he was convinced otherwise because it did a sharp turn, started descending. He's like, I haven't really, planes don't do that. So they got back in their car and started driving. They again observed a bright light that moved from below the moon and the planet Jupiter. It was just kind of going all over the place, honestly. Casual, I know where the planet Jupiter is.
Yeah, I'm like, that's really specific.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe one of them was an astronomer, an amateur astronomer, and they just
they don't
like to talk. They don't want to brag or anything.
Not brag. I know exactly where it was.
In one of the articles I read, that the couple was described as an exemplary couple. So I guess they're pretty cool.
Fine. We're exemplary.
I know.
It's said by others, not by us.
Exactly.
But we're exemplary.
Honestly, it was kind of following as they kept driving. So then Betty saw an odd-shaped craft. A few years earlier, Betty's sister had said that she saw a flying saucer. So that was in Betty's mind. They continued driving. The object came even closer. They said that the object rapidly descended towards their vehicle. Barney gets out of the car, and he said it reminded him of a huge pancake.
Right on.
It's just Courtney flying through the sky.
Whee!
But really, really big.
Exactly. Yeah. And so He had a pistol in his pocket, which is smart.
I'm gonna shoot this pancake right
Yeah,
out of the sky.
he's like,
Right out
yeah.
of the sky.
He's like, well, fuck it. No, because it is like right in front of the.
Oh, okay.
Like it was blocking the
That's
road.
that big scary flapjack.
Yeah. Exactly that. He got out of his car and moved a little closer, not much, but then he looked through his binoculars and he said that he'd seen 8 to 11 humanoid figures who were peering out the craft's window and seeming to look at him, and the only thing I could think of was them like like this up on the window, like, hi.
Like their breath is fogging out
Yeah.
the window.
Hi. Then the figures in unison moved and kind of encircled the front portion of the craft, all except one. And that figure continued to look at Barney and communicated a message saying, stay where you are and keep looking.
Ew.
That gave me chills when they said
Ew. No, thank you.
So then he observed these forms, these humanoid forms, wearing glossy black uniforms and black caps. Ooh, this is the one! So lights on what appeared to be bat wing fins.
Oh, Mothman.
Uh-huh. Then, obviously, he ran back towards his car. He told Betty, they're gonna capture us. And then the next thing they can remember is that they had traveled 35 miles south, but they only had a vague memory of getting there.
Mothman.
Exactly.
It's like Super Mothman.
Betty started having these dreams that kind of was recounting what happened. She did start writing them down. And what she does remember is that she was being forced by 2 small men to walk in a forest at night and seeing Barney behind her. When she called to him, he seemed to be in some sort of weird trance. She said that they were taken in and they were separated and basically just conducted experiments as they do. And he cut off a lock of Betty's hair.
What?
He examined her eyes and ears and mouth and nose. Like, he shaved trimmings from her fingernails. He examined her legs and feet. The man used a dull knife similar to a letter opener to scrape some of her skin onto what resembled cellophane. She engaged in a conversation with the leader. She picked up a book with rows of strange symbols. The leader said she could take it home with her. She also asked where he came from, and he pulled down an instructional map dotted with stars. So the second one is the Antonio Villas Boas in Brazil. This was in 1957. He said that he was abducted by aliens. He said that they were wearing gray coveralls. Its eyes were small and blue, and instead of speech, it made noises like barks or yelps.
Weird.
Mm-hmm. Huh. He was stripped from his clothes and covered with a strange gel from head to toe.
Oh, yuck.
And then they put him in a room alone, and then they were pumping some kind of weird gas into the room, and it made him sick. And then after that, by another humanoid. This one was female. She was attractive, and she was naked. And they ended up having sex.
Oh, no.
Oh, and part of the experiment that they did was they took blood from his chin. And he said that while they were having sex, she was nipping at his chin. And they didn't kiss. And then after, the female smiled at him and rubbed her belly and pointed upwards. And Boaz took this to mean that she was going to raise their child in space. And then they let him go. And he was sad because he felt used. This week, Emily picked Fire in the Sky. It's a 1993 movie about alien abduction. I mean, if y'all didn't already know.
Bing, 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 bing. Emily, you always do this to me with spooks, and I don't like spooks, and you like the cult classics, and I love to talk shit about them. Yeah,
I feel like she's got a lot to say.
I have a few things here and there.
And that, honestly, sometimes I pick movies like this just so that I can get your reaction to them. Because it's one of those things that Paul always says where he's just like, just because I like a movie doesn't mean it's good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, like, this movie, actually, it's funny because I thought that the acting was worse in it. Then I rewatched it because I have seen this movie a couple times, but not for a long time. And I was like, I rewatched it. I was like, this actually isn't that bad. Like, it's not what I thought it was, but like there are definitely moments.
Yeah,
and we'll get into it.
Yeah,
but then I was just like, I still want to hear.
Yeah.
So why?
To say about it.
Tell me about why you picked this movie. Do you have a special connection?
I really liked it, and I'm really into like aliens and stuff like that. And this story is like a really well-known, like, and well-documented abduction, and it's really cool because it was witnessed by like a whole group of people, but like in real life, like they really took a ton of like lie detector tests. Most of them came back as that they were telling the truth, and only a few came back as inconclusive. And if I did my research properly, none of them came back as them showing deception. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, I think it's really cool. The movie, again, it's like the Disappointments Room where the story is a lot cooler than the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like I think Travis, like, I feel like his acting was decent, and as well as Mike's. But I feel like some of the, like, surrounding characters
they were trying really hard.
Yeah.
And you could tell. Do you want to read off the actors?
Yeah.
Our main dudes.
So, for our cast, we have D.B. Sweeney as Travis Walton, Robert Patrick as Mike Rogers, James Gardner as Lieutenant Frank Waters, Craig Sheffer as Alan Dallas, Peter Berg as David Whitlock, Henry Thomas as Greg Hayes, Bradley Gregg as Bobby Cogdill, Kathleen Wilhoit as Katie Rogers, Georgia Emmelin as Dana Rogers, Scott MacDonald as Dan Walton, and Noble Willingham as Sheriff Blake Davis.
Yeah. I have only a few comments about the cast. First of all, I feel like D.B. Sweeney, who plays Travis Walton, he kind of looks like Paul Rudd if you had ordered him off of Wish.com.
Yeah.
It's fucking true.
It really is.
No,
it's like
you're
the best
100% right.
Robert Patrick, especially when he's clean shaven, I feel like he looks like the love child of Kurt Russell and the guy who played Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs.
Is that the one that plays Mike?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Especially when he's clean shaven, and it's like spot on. I'm just like, it looks like they took Kurt Russell's face and then like superimposed that other dude's face on top. And then also too, I wanted to note that a lot of these main character actors have two first names.
Oh.
Sorry, MK.
Yeah.
We got Robert Patrick. We got Henry Thomas. We got Bradley Gregg. I just noticed that, and now we can drop it.
Well.
Okay, so the movie opens up on just a shot of a quote that says, "Chance makes a plaything of a man's life." Seneca, 1st century AD. I looked this dude up. I didn't know who he was. He was a Roman Stoic philosopher born in 4 BC.
What?
Yeah. Okay, so opening credits. You're kind of seeing this spooky, foggy road in the woods. And I didn't like it. I was like, no, thank you.
You know my
and you
opinion
see
on that.
a light coming up through the fog. And you see this truck just coming down this road really fast. There's quick, intense music playing. You see this truck, it's crashing into trees, bushes, and like, busts out onto a regular road, and it ends up cutting off a box truck, and it's, like, squealing all over the place. And the truck pulls up to a bar, and you see on the screen, White Mountains, Arizona, 1975. Setting the scene.
So I'm confused. So they talk about Snowflake, but is that just a town that it's close to?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is the neighboring town. And the truck is all smoky and jacked up. You can see it's really been through something.
Uh-huh.
The guys who are in the truck, they get out, and they start going into the bar very solemnly. They're unresponsive to people who are greeting them. Kind of two guys who are sitting out front of the restaurant, just being like, I forget what they said to him.
He's like, hey, Mike, you in a hurry?
Oh, yeah. And they just don't respond at all. So there's clearly something wrong. They're all shook up, especially the youngest, Greg, and they're all just kind of talking and just trying to figure out what they're going to do about what it is we don't know yet, but clearly something happened.
Yeah, they're fucked up.
Yeah, they're real fucked up.
Right.
And
So.
Yeah.
the main guy who seems to be in charge turns out to be Mike Rogers. He's looking at the group, and he's like, we're sticking to the story no matter how rough it gets.
Mm-hmm.
One of the guys says, go ahead and make the call. We're all with you. And so Mike goes up to the payphone, and he calls the police. Cut 2! There's a cop in a car, and he's just driving along, and he goes to answer a call over the radio. This scene to me is really stupid. I don't like this scene, because it's all like, he goes to reach for the radio, and then he's like looking up out of the windshield of his car, and there's just like these lights, these red lights descending in the reflection of the windshield, and he looks so like, what? And then like it cuts to, it's a fucking train crossing, and I'm just like, there's no reason why this guy, unless he was like tripping on acid, like to be like confused about what's happening in front of him. It's a train crossing. And I just like, what? I was watching it last night again with Paul, and Paul was just like, what is this strange metal worm in front of me? Just like talking about the train.
That's gotta be a goof, right? Somebody, like, he was probably told, like, okay, act like you saw something that was weird, and then they cut it into the wrong area. Maybe.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Or it was like the wrong take that they put into the movie.
They
It's like, oh man, I thought I was supposed to look scared.
Shit.
Anyhow, so he gets called to Snowflake to assist the sheriff there, but they won't tell him why. And so it cuts to, there's a crowd gathering outside the bar, and Detective Frank Waters meets Sheriff Blake Davis in the parking lot. And Blake Davis, I said he was fangirling a little bit. He's just like, oh my gosh, I know all about you. And I was talking to Paul last night. I was like, I wrote a fan fiction. I shipped you with Edward Cullen. Like, he explains to Detective Waters that this group of workers has a government contract clearing brush and trees in the state park, and that one of them has gone missing. And he starts talking about the one that's gone missing, Travis Walton, that he knows him well. He's a good guy, a straight man, that's what he said. I was just like, and then he goes to introduce him to his racist deputy. And he starts listing off the men who are involved for the detective. There's David Whitlock. He's 26, local boy, active in the church. We have Greg Hayes, 17, high school kid from Winslow, and this one's pretty shook up.
Yeah.
Yeah, poor Greg.
Yeah.
Poor Elliot from E.T.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Robert Cogdill, 20, from Durango. He just joined the crew a week ago. And then Alan Dallas, 25, a drifter on the crew just over 2 weeks. And then either the sheriff or the deputy is like, that's a bad apple if you ask me. So it's already just setting up for Alan Dallas to be kind of a wild card. And then I just have this quote down as, you better hear this straight from the horse's mouth. And then the detective's like, well, lead me to the horse.
I wrote that
I was
down.
like, oh my.
Frank, like, starts talking to... Oh, no, he set down the recorder. He's like, you mind if I record this? And they're like, do you have to? And Alan Dallas turns and he's like, Barney Fife of a detective. I already told him everything. This fucking attitude, man.
Oh, yeah.
And then they were like, all right, tell us what happened. Who's Travis Walton? And then it zooms in on Mike's face and he goes, he was my best friend. Cut 2.
I wrote, abducted guy is his BFF.
Yeah.
And so he's on a motorcycle, Travis is. And then I wrote, this fucking guy just riding around on his roller scooter. His rotor scooter. His motorcycle, riding on the sidewalks, cutting off cars. And then this chick that's like obviously in love with him grabs a shit ton of donuts and just like holds it out the door. And he's like, yeah.
And they never mention her again.
No.
Never.
Ever.
And the way she looks at him when he rides away, she just looks like she's like
Come back.
in pain. Yeah. It's like setting up like he's a heartbreaker.
Mm-hmm. Would you expect anything less from Wish.com?
I mean...
Leading on the bakery girl, you know.
I mean, you gotta get the donuts.
Oh, no.
Her mom's like, what are you doing? She's like, nothing. Like, putting, like, a shit ton of Lay's donuts in the bag.
Okay.
And, yeah. Mike had just fought with his wife about money.
Oh, the mortgage.
Yeah. And then that's when Travis drives up and he's like, I have breakfast. You okay? Let's get your motorcycle up and running. This part is what got me. The first time I saw it, I laughed out loud because he pulls out this picture that he drew of his this motorcycle shop that he wants to start with Mike. You know, MT Motors, Mike and Travis. But it just, to me, I mean, I am an awful artist. Like, I can't draw with shit. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, it just reminded me of, like, a kid with, like, crayons.
It did kind of look like it was done in crayon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a high school kid project.
Yeah.
Drawing.
He's like, this is the future, here. And I'm like, really? Like, fucking...
I love when he was talking about, like, oh, our showroom is almost always empty. Get it? Empty. And it's like, oh my god.
Exactly. Oh, Travis.
He's so creative.
Oh.
I know, he's such a good drawer.
He's trying to pump Mike up, and he's like, MT Motors, this is the future, check it out. Mike is kind of like, listen, dude, like, we have to finish this contract, like, we'll figure it out. My mortgage is on the line, like, they're having a lot of money troubles, and he's like, don't get it. Mm-mm. And Travis is like, okay, whatever, man, and then he just, like, climbs up the side of his house.
Love awaits.
Yeah, love awaits me. So he's climbing up the side of the house, and Mike's wife sees him out the window. And she's like, God, Travis, can't you use the door? Quirky Uncle Travis.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just gonna climb up the side of the house and watch his girlfriend sleeping from the outside of the house. Which is sweet. She wakes up, and he's like, donuts, breakfast in bed. Nice smooch. And then he's like, marry me. And she's like, I just fucking woke up, man.
Yeah.
I haven't even brushed my teeth. God.
Like, hang on. I don't look or smell or feel my best at the moment.
Cut to. There's just like a shot of the road, and you see these 4 guys just like hanging out in the road. And it turns out to be the rest of the crew. They're stopping to pick them up, and they're heading to the work site. They're all talking shit to each other in the truck. And then Travis and Alan Dallas start to bicker and be like, oh, think that getting aggressive with each other. And then they arrive at the work site, and Mike is giving everyone their assignments, and they get to work. And I call it a lumberjack montage.
I said that too!
Did you? And during that, you kind of see everybody doing their specific assignments, and you see Mike felling a tree, and he's like calling it, he's like down the hill as it's falling, so it's made obvious that like there's a precedent for warning people, and they're practicing those safe measures. But it kind of shows Travis and Dallas kind of like still not really getting along, and then eventually Dallas fells a tree and he doesn't call it, and it falls like right next to Travis, and Travis is getting really pissed off because it's putting him in danger. Mm-hmm. Mike calls lunch, and Dallas is walking by Travis and he calls him stupid or something, and then Dallas is trying to intimidate him with his chainsaw.
Dallas is a big old fucking dick cheese.
Oh, yeah, he is.
Yeah.
His sunglasses are stupid too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Ugh.
And he's like, I'm hardcore with a bandana.
Oh, and Rambo.
It cuts back to the Lieutenant Frank Waters. Dallas is just so angsty. He's like, is rolling up a cigarette. And he's, like, questioning him, like, you didn't really like Travis, like, how did you cut your hand? And then he was just like, what did you see? And Dallas has a cigarette that he rolled, and he puts it in his mouth, and he's like, it looked like fire. And then lights his lighter.
Mr. Cool Guy. Before that, when he's, like, asking him about the cut on his hand, and he's like, you ought to be more careful, son. And he looks up and he goes, well, I'll do my best, Daddy. And I was like, I wrote next to it, I was like, kinky!
Yeah! I did too! I was like, kink. Yeah, kink.
Oh, God. I wrote that with you in mind.
Yeah. I mean, your movies have a lot of kink.
What can I say?
Maybe that's her kink. It's like subtle kink.
Subtle kink in alien abduction movie.
I also want to note that Dallas is spelled with an I.
Yeah.
So there's
I don't
that.
like it.
Yeah, whatever. Dallas.
It's like when you spell Courtney with a K.
Right.
Gross.
So cut to everyone's going home. It's nighttime. They're done. And then as they're driving, they see just red. And they're like, what is that? Is that a wildfire or is it a plane crash? They're not really sure what it is, but they pull off to investigate. Mm-mm. And then things start getting weird. I wrote, Travis gets out and walks towards fucking idiot. And I was like, actually, I would do this.
Actually. Oh my God.
And then the light turns blue, and he's like, hey, everything's good. And then it, like, goes back to red, and he's, like, looking up at it. I'm like, come on, dude, you had every chance. And then finally, when he starts to run away, a bright light freezes him. Then it shoots him back.
Shot.
Light.
Yeah.
Throws him backwards. He's dead! And then they're just, like, driving like a bat out of hell.
They're racing away, and they say, like, all the guys are just, like, screaming that their craft is following them, they're gonna kill them, like, all this other stuff, and it's very similar scene to the opening scene, where they're driving, hitting trees, he knocks the side mirror off of his truck. They finally get to a point where they say that it's not following them anymore. Mike stops the truck, and he says, we need to go back and get Travis. Everyone's arguing with him, and he gets to the point where he's just like, you know what, if you don't want to come with me, get out, I'll come back for you. I'm going to go find Travis. Mm-hmm. And the guys get out. There's spooky bird sounds and fog. Cuts back to the present at the restaurant while they're being questioned by the detective. Mike is explaining that he searched everywhere in the woods, but he couldn't find Travis, and that they, quote-unquote, took him. The detective is just like, you guys expect me to believe this? And he clearly is just like, does not believe a word that they're saying.
I wrote, Worst acting. You gotta believe us. The cop is leaving, saying that they're going to start looking tomorrow. And then I put Frank Waters, the quintessential cop. Yep.
Yeah. Like, they all kind of leave. The questioning is over for the night. And the detective and the sheriff walk out to the truck. Detective suspects foul play for Travis and will be staying in town. And then he kind of is like, man, I wonder how they came up with such a wacky story. And he's like reaching into the truck and pulling out that copy of the National Inquisitor.
Oh.
But did you guys see what it says on the front of that?
No.
At the top it says, Nebraska man kidnapped by aliens. Which is implying, like, wonder how that got this crazy story. They've been reading the National Inquisitor about it.
I did not catch that.
Same.
But also, it says, another headline says, how mayonnaise can improve your sex life.
No.
It's so bad.
Oh my god.
Cuts to the next day. There's a big search party montage. They have helicopters. They have dogs. They have people on foot, people on horses. Like this dynamic shot of the sheriff, like, giving people direction. Let's get going, boys, and God bless you. The guys from the crew are there, too, with the cops. They're all being like, his body was definitely there. His body was definitely there. And they all are pointing somewhere different.
Right.
And then y'all's favorite thing happens.
I'll let Courtney
with
take this one.
Travis's older brother.
Travis's brother comes accusing them that he did something with his baby bro. They just can't find it. They're like, it's here. No, it's here. No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There is another, like, they call out from another part of the field where a dog has signaled to potential remains being buried. They're all standing around and, like, out loud speculating that it's Travis's body. And I'm just like, come on, guys, like, calm down.
Mm-hmm.
And then being like, oh, they killed him, I knew it. And then it just turns out to be dog bones. Like, a hunter buried his dog.
Yeah.
Which I thought was weird. Why would you
Maybe it's a
bury
Snowflake, Arizona thing.
I mean, when my dog Tara died, we took her out to the mountains and buried her.
Oh, well, you don't.
Yeah. Then it cuts to, like, Mike and the wife, Kate, and basically they just get in a big old fight
Yeah, they're not
about...
doing good.
Yeah, not good at all. They get in a fight about money, and then they get in a fight about what people are saying about him around town. And she's like, they're saying that you're a liar. And he's like, and a what? And she's like, a murderer. He says, well, do you believe that? And she kind of acts like she does.
Yeah, she just doesn't say anything.
Yeah. She's like, just tell me the truth. Tell me what happened. He's like, I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I was wondering, like, would you believe me?
I think I would, like, maybe ask a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay if it was, like, really fucked up shit, or if, like, you guys accidentally killed him or something, or
Right.
like just kind of like double check, and then if you stick to it, I'd be like, okay, well, fuck, all right, let's.
It also has something to say for, like, what they were setting up their relationship to be like before. Like, they were already having problems.
Mm-hmm.
I would feel like, God, I'm already, like, having all these problems with this person, and now this, you know?
Yeah. And so Mike just goes to the hotel or the motel, and the front desk guy is just like, I'm getting all these phone calls from, you know, UFO people, the National Inquisitor, and all that stuff. And then as Mike going to his room, he's like, don't tell anyone, Tom. Cuts to Mike getting swarmed by reporters first thing in the morning. And it's like, did Tom tell them?
I bet he did.
Somebody
Fucking
probably
Tom.
paid him.
Do you have a note about what the reporter says to him?
No.
Because I didn't. I had only noticed it, like, last night. He goes, Mr. Rogers, Mr. Rogers. And then he, like, runs up to him and he looks at him and he goes, I feel like I should be asking you if it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I was like,
Did
he just say that?
Right?
Ugh.
I didn't even notice that.
I did. I didn't write it down though.
Oh no.
Yeah. I feel like I should be saying it's a beautiful day. Oh, God. He's just like, I told you everything, so goodbye. Then they park. It's him and David, right?
Yes.
Jarvis Palo approaches them when they get into town from afar. American Foundation of Aerial Research. He has a lot of experience with these issues.
We believe. They walk into the diner. It's all a bustle until they walk in. Very quickly, all of the diners just stop talking. They're all mumbling about them walking through the diner. And they meet up with Greg and Bobby at the table. And then Greg and Bobby start being like, well, the cops say everything will be fine if we just confess and blah, blah. And they're like, well, there's nothing to confess. Why would we confess?
Yeah.
Something. And then David at one point is just like, what the hell does Buck Morton have to say about it? Like, it's just this, like, random townie, like, sitting at the other table. And then Buck comes up and goes, you want to say something to my face? And so David starts a fight with Buck Morton.
I like what he says. Because David is church guy. And then he, like, just stands up. He's like, you gotta be kidding me, you fat piece of shit. And everyone's just like,
wow.
Like,
okay, David. The sheriff and the detective come in and they're like calming things down. The sheriff is like, where's your friend? And Mike is just like, which one? And they're like, come on, Dallas. They don't know where he is. He starts talking to them about taking a lie detector test, and he's like, well, think about it. He's like, oh, well, you can do it today, you can do it tomorrow. He's like, well, I said, well, think about it. And then the detective is just like, why don't we step outside for a talk? And he goes, they go outside together, and he's like, Greg told me what really happened to Dallas's hand, and that it came from an altercation with Travis. He goes, I don't think you killed your friend, but I can't figure out exactly why you're covering up. And David comes outside and joins them as the detective walks away. And they're like, we're going to go find Dallas. And he's at a trailer playing cards and scratching his balls.
mm-hmm.
They get him to come out and talk with them. And he kind of, I told you so's them. And they're just like, well, the detective and the sheriff are looking for you. And that they want them to take lie detector tests. Dallas is like, those machines are dangerous, man. You got something?
Well, we do. Just comes later.
Okay. Well, first there was this line about, I hear what's been happening in that stupid Mormon town.
Yeah.
And then, they get into an argument.
Yeah.
And they start to wrestle.
Uh-huh.
And it's Boner City!
Oh
like,
God.
Do you notice that? They have boners!
I was waiting for one of you guys to say something here.
Boner
City.
And then the fact that Dallas is like, that was nice. That felt good. I'm like, no!
Really giving yourself away there, buddy.
I know.
Oh, God.
I wrote down, I guess that's how pornos start.
Sorry
like,
for what?
Everyone just got a bunch of boners.
Like,
And then, like, the
wow.
way he, like, struts off.
Probably because he's trying to make it seem like he doesn't have a fucking boner.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
It reminded me of...
Anchorman?
Yes.
Don't act like you're not impressed.
I'm just surprised that they used that shot.
I know. I
when
feel like they were just like, nobody's gonna see it. Nobody's gonna see it. They're not gonna notice.
Are you kidding me?
We noticed.
Especially when, like, Dallas, when he turns, it's like a profile for a second.
Yeah. What can I say? Anyway, so it cuts to the town hall meeting. You got something?
So bad!
It's so bad.
It's so bad.
I want to hear all about what you think about it.
Come on, Sheriff! Oh, God. It's so I put woman in pioneer dress. Hang on. My kids are scared from all this silly UFO nonsense. All those strangers wandering around asking questions. What are you gonna do about it, Sheriff?
You did a better job than she did.
She's like,
beautiful.
I was like, I wrote down big letters. Give her an Oscar. I also got her name. Her name is Teresa Fox.
Oh.
Cast as citizen.
Yes.
I wrote down peasant lady. She looks like she was wearing a peasant dress.
She had to have thought that was like her big break.
Yeah, she's like, here it
what
is.
are you gonna do about it?
Yeah. I had to write down the quote. Big break. Big break.
You know, I did write the acting in this scene is top notch.
Got primo acting skills. Yeah. See. The sheriff's all like, we're gonna give him a lie detector test, and they're just like, well, we want to make sure that our town is safe, and for the sheriff's, to his credit, he's like, there is not one scintilla of evidence that a crime has been committed.
Yeah, like he's not buying into the town peer pressure, he's trying to calm down a lynch mob.
And then Mike shows up.
I wrote, don't piss off Mike, he's the Terminator, the liquid one.
The liquid one.
Yeah.
I was just like, he does a lot of monologues in this film, and he's just...
This part is no exception.
Hold it! Just hold it right there!
I think it was like, but, you know, like...
I wrote down that he's like, I can't change what I saw, and then I was like, tears? Question mark? He started to well up a little bit.
It's a little emotional. There are a few times.
Yeah, and then he's like, I went to school with you, Nate. And he's like, I miss him. I miss him bad.
And then he was like, you got something to say? Say it to my face.
Right. And then he just like drops the mic and walks out.
Yeah.
And his wife is in the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So she's kind of ashamed a little bit.
Yeah. And Travis's older brother's there too. Mm. If anything happens to my baby bro, God, I hold you personally responsible.
Personally.
So it's, I said the next day maybe, I think, where the truck is pulling up and it's swarmed by reporters at the police station. And they're all meeting there to take the lie detector test. You're all like, it better be fair. And then Mike is like, I trust you, to the sheriff. And the sheriff is like, I give you my word, it's going to be fair.
Cy Gilson's the best there is. Attempting to detect lies montage.
This is better. So it's like Greg, then David, then Bobby, and Dallas, and then Mike. In that order, they all seem to be answering pretty confidently at first, and then as the questions come on, they seem less confident.
Well, it's like entrapment questions.
It really is.
It's so bad. Like,
It's like questions like when he asks Greg, like, is my shirt white? And he looks back, he's like, well, kind of, you know. Like
he's like, turn around, don't look at me.
Yeah,
and,
like, you know.
Well, how is he supposed to... Is this a memory test or is this a lie detector test? Give me a break.
Right.
What is it they asked to Dallas, like, you didn't like Travis? And he's like, yes and no. And
Yeah.
I was like, is Travis the man he'll never be?
It's kind of like a throwback to, you just see like a vague like fade in of like them wrestling and fighting and the boner scene, and then it fades out. It turns out that like one of the tests was inconclusive. Mm-hmm. And so like, well, we can do this again. We'll have to do another one in the morning. And Mike is like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing another one.
Sick of this shit.
Yeah, and they're just like, well, all you have to do is cooperate. And he's like, all we do is cooperate.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, come on.
I mean, that's pretty fair to say, because they really are just trying to do what they're telling them to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I were in that situation where it was like kind of the same thing that I was saying with Mothman, where you just feel like you're being gaslit at that point,
Mm-hmm.
like, am I fucking nuts?
Yeah.
So then it's like, well, this would benefit me if I knew that something was not real in this situation. So please test me. Am I fucking nuts?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then after they storm out of the police station, it's revealed by the tester guy.
Cy Gilson.
The best there is.
It's revealed that everyone else was telling the truth, and the only one that came back that was inconclusive was Dallas's.
Mm-hmm.
Cut to. Mike is at home. It's in the middle of the night. He's sitting on the couch with his girls fast asleep, and he's just kind of staring blankly at a TV with static on it. His wife wakes up, and she's like, "What, are you spending the night?" And he's like, "Well, is that going to be a problem?" And she's like, "No, do whatever you want." The phone... What?
She just doesn't really seem like she likes him, or she's just like, you can do whatever you want, like kind of annoyed that he's gonna stay there or something. Like that's the vibe that I got. Like,
yeah,
like maybe she doesn't really believe him still.
Mm-hmm. She like doesn't want him to be there.
Yeah,
but
I feel like she might even resent him a little bit for all the negative attention and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
oh yeah,
she probably feels insane too.
Yeah,
and then on top of that, they have all this money issues, so they were kind of a little rocky to begin with.
Yeah,
and then this is just like, she's like, well, he might be a murderer, so
yeah. Like, I wouldn't really necessarily. I wouldn't want a murderer in my house, and I also wouldn't want to tell a murderer that's in my house that they need to leave. You know what I mean?
That's a fair point. That is a fair point. I didn't think about it that way.
But the phone rings. The wife picks it up and she's like, "That's not funny." She hangs up the phone. She's telling Mike, like, "We're getting crank calls all the time, all hours of the night." And then the phone rings again and Mike answers, and it turns out it's a collect call from Travis Walton. And Travis is like, "Help me." He's like, "I need help." They figure out.
Really rasp.
The way his voice sounded over the phone kind of like gave me the same sort of sensation with like Indrid Cold's voice. And I was like, chills. Like, no.
Yeah.
Together.
I got that vibe too. I thought it was the aliens calling, or something. Yeah.
Mike is like so sure that it is Travis, and he's like, everybody thinks that it's just another prank call, and he's like, well, I gotta at least look. So they go out to the middle of nowhere to this gas station, and they find a dude huddled next to an ice machine.
Mm-hmm. Naked. Fucking...
Yeah, super naked.
Yeah.
This is a part that actually ends up pissing me off, because they're like, Travis! And they're like all huddling around him, and he's obviously fucked up. And it's like, Mike is wearing a fucking flannel. Take off your flannel and give it to him! Like, what kind of friend are you? Just leaving him there naked, like shivering?
And it's raining.
Yeah. Give him your fucking shirt off your back.
For real.
And they try and touch him, and he just starts screeching.
Oh, scary sounds.
Yeah.
And he's super thirsty. And then they call the guys from afar. But, ew, God, this pisses me off because they're just like taking pictures of him, bombarding him with questions.
So
and
scary.
And I get like what Mike's intention was, but it takes him a minute to tell them to stop when it's like obviously stressing him out right from the beginning, but finally he's like, no, get out of here. And then classic like scene of like hospital, like rushing down the hallway, that you see in, I feel like almost every movie you watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
you're gonna be all right, buddy. The guys who are pushing the gurney, the stretcher or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like getting flashes of like a different hallway, and so it's like kind of you're getting like the first sense of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of like really abruptly cuts to Mike visiting Travis. He's all alone in an open ward, which like
weird.
Mm-hmm.
like, that probably would never, ever, ever happen except in a movie. But it's, like, nighttime, and Mike has managed to sneak in and visit Travis before the doctors have cleared Travis to have visitors.
Yeah, that's sketch.
Yeah. I'm just like, it's 1975, but, like, come on, guys.
Come on, guys.
Come on. He's explaining to Travis about the search parties, about how people were, like, everyone was looking for him, and how he's like, you believe these idiots thought that we killed you?
They were about to lynch us. Okay, buddy.
Okay. And Travis is pretty much more or less unresponsive to anything he tells him until he's like, I was so upset when I came back and I couldn't find you and I felt so awful for leaving you. And that's when he kind of like looks over at him and he starts to say something and he's like, what are you trying to say? Are you trying to say something? He was like, yeah, I came back for you. He's like, you left me there? And then Mike is just like, what the hell did you expect me to do?
Yeah, like, get scooped up too with you? No, thank you.
Right. He's like, we thought you were dead, and we panicked. And then he storms out. He's like, whatever, I was just leaving.
I'd be so pissed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You were the one who got out!
You're the one who got out of the fucking truck. We were all screaming for you to get back. Like, I'm not gonna victim blame, but
he only has himself to blame. Seriously though, like, I would obviously get out of the truck, and if that happened, I would be like, oh, I'm not gonna get pissed at the other people for running away when they just saw me, like, get blasted.
Right?
Or at least, like, if you're initially kind of pissed off, and then it's just like, we thought you were dead. Like, what do you...
Right.
We were screaming for you to come back. And then it'd be like, oh, okay. No, you're right. Okay.
We fucked up.
Yeah. Okay, buddy.
So the next day, it's the following morning, and Dana is helping Travis out of the hospital. She's helping him get dressed. They're leaving, and the doctor is just like, if you want to sit down and talk about what happened, I believe you. Which is, I thought was super cool of a, like, depiction of a doctor in 1975.
Right.
And, like, I believe you. If you want to talk, I'm here. You can always find me here. They're leaving, and they're swarmed by the press, and Dana's just pulling him through the crowd. He's sitting in the car in front of a grocery store waiting for Dana to come out, and a kid comes up and is just like, can I get your autograph? You're famous now that you've been to space. Which I thought was super cute.
It was cute. But
still, like,
poor guy.
Yeah, like, his face is all fucked up, like, bruised. Okay.
That alone should have been like, okay, clearly something bad happened.
Yeah.
Let's not just assume this guy was lying for the fame.
Yeah. And it wasn't like he'd been beat up sort of things. It was like the marks next to his eyes and the marks next to his nostrils and like under his ears. Like, that's not just like you got beat up in the woods and left for dead by your buddies. Like,
Frank approaches Travis and just questions him. I feel like that's inappropriate. Like, I get it. Like, he's trying to figure out what's going on, but he's like has no tact. Like, homeboy is literally like on his way home from the hospital.
A mental hospital.
Yeah. And you're gonna start accusing him of making up the whole story with Mike to get out of a contract or whatever. It's just like, it's it's read the room, bro. Like, read his fucking face.
Read the car, bro.
Seriously.
Like, the fact that he says, he's just like, well, the doctor said you went without food and water all that time. And I just went, do you think it was worth it? And it's just like, the fuck?
Yeah.
And he's just like, well, where were you all that time? He's like, I don't remember. Like, and he's like, oh, well, yeah, you don't remember. I'm like, what a dickhead.
I know.
What a dick cheese.
Fucking dick cheese, man. The welcome home party, and God, that's so overwhelming. Again, read the fucking room.
Yeah.
He's obviously traumatized. His face, like...
He just got out of the hospital.
Yes.
There is another moment where Greg greets him, and he holds up the National Inquisitor. He's like, oh, we got the paper. And it says on it, Arizona man kidnapped by aliens, which is Travis. But it also says, I think the name is Linda McKinstry's romance with billionaires were taped. Details in back. And then used car dealers give men better deals than women. Which, yeah.
Not lying.
And then the best one on it is, great news! No one ever has to have acne anymore.
That is
no
great
one
news.
ever.
So she can't find him, and then she finds him in the kitchen underneath the table, and then she like goes under and like touches him, and he basically starts convulsing, like freaking out, and it like spills the syrup, and the syrup like drips down on his face, and then it cuts to what happened.
Just immediately sends him into a flashback of him lying on his back. He's regaining consciousness, and he's surrounded by goop. It's goop everywhere.
So that goop, it reminded me of that caramelized onion.
No
stuff.
way! No, I'm definitely never gonna be able to eat it.
That's what it reminded me of.
So he wakes up in a sack filled with caramelized onion jam.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, God. I deserved that. He's feeling around him, trying to get his bearings, and he's like pressing on the wall of the sack. I keep calling it a sack.
I called it a pod.
Yeah, that's
I
better.
put fleshy pod of some kind.
Oh, is that better? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so he manages to pierce through this like translucent skin like film that's like holding one of the walls of his pod. I have pod too. Look at that. And he shimmies out. No, he doesn't really shimmy out. He kind of falls out, doesn't he? Why did I write shimmy?
Yeah.
He falls out of his pod and he sees he's kind of in like a tower of these pods, like a big tube, and these pods are all the inside of the walls. Some are intact, some are not. It seems kind of dilapidated. He's suspended in the air, but he's holding on to like this like umbilical cord thingy. It's not attached to him, but he's holding on to it. And he kind of gets whipped against a wall by an unknown force, and he's burst into another pod where...
Because he has no gravity.
Oh, yeah, okay. That makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and he's burst into another pod where he, like, just falls face and hands first into more goop that turns out to be a partially decayed human body. And that's just yucky. So he's kind of exploring the room / tower thing that he's in, and he's just like struggling with like the lack of gravity, and he puts his hand in goop again. This place is a sensory hell. It almost seems like gravity is like changing a little bit every so often, so it's making it difficult for him to get his bearings. And then he kind of like focuses, and he can see particles in the air kind of like changing with the airflow. And so he follows it, and then he comes to a big opening, and he sees his snowflake keychain floating around in the air. And he goes to reach for it, and he's pulled into this bright room, and he sees these beings like suspended from the ceiling, and they kind of are like these scary looking like black alien, what you think of, the big eyes, the big head, the skinny bodies. And then he goes up to one, like, check it out. He's like, space suits.
This guy, I fucking hate him. I'm like, just keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah, just stop fucking around.
Curiosity killed the Travis. You know? I'm just like so not.
You're not Team Travis, clearly.
Fuck this guy. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
So he's like checking out this. It turns out to be an empty spacesuit. He's caught by one of the aliens. He freaks out. He kicks the alien's helmet off. He turns around and he looks like a wrinkly orange old guy with no nose.
He makes me think of that chick in Star Wars. She looks like her eyes are pineapples. Pineapple slices. Hang on, I gotta look her up.
Me.
Star Wars?
I'm sorry.
Pineapple slices?
Pineapple slices. You had me until Pineapple eyes. Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about.
Her eyes make me think of pineapple
She
slices.
looks like Lady E.T.
Lady E.T. Yeah, but as soon as they showed them, I was like,
I'll give you that.
that is that lady.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Faux show.
Yeah. Totes.
Alright, so he freaks out and he finds an opening and he just randomly just rushes through it to try and get away from this guy. So he's fleeing through the tunnels and then his feet are caught and he's dragged by the aliens through the hallways. And that's what he was kind of flashing back to when he was being pushed through the hallways in the hospital. And he kind of sees evidence of past human beings being there. Like he sees shoes and he sees a pair of glasses and other stuff like that. They bring him to this big room and they slam him down on this table. They start
tearing off his clothes, and there is a goof there.
Is there?
One of the guys tearing off his clothes is wearing normal clothes.
Seriously?
Are you kidding me?
I didn't actually go back to watch it, but on IMDb, that's one of the goofs.
That's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to be like, they all had boners.
Seriously, like
Every
it shows
single
dick.
one. Boners.
Your dick circumstance.
Oh yeah, so, okay, there's 3 beings there, and they're all ripping his clothes out, and they strap him down on this table, and the guy, Travis is screaming and screaming, and then this part is, it's all bad. They cover him with this cloth, and it's loose on him, but then it just suddenly tightens like a vacuum seal over his body, and then they cover his face with another cloth, and that tightens over his face, and he's like screaming and trying to breathe in, but his cloth is just going into his mouth. It's horrifying, and you can hear him.
So I was trying to figure out what that fleshy essentially saran wrap made me think of.
Yeah,
it made me think of I only did this in culinary school. I never did it ever again, but it makes me think of how you make phyllo dough.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
a whole table of people, and you slap it out to stretch it to that consistency.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how they did it.
Maybe they just covered him in phyllo. They cut. They're just fucking around. They take their knife and they cut his eye where his eye is, and it's just bugging out of his head, and it's just it's fucked up. And then they cut where his mouth is open and screaming, and it gets louder as they cut the stuff away from it. Ugh! And then they take this black goop and they smush it into his mouth. And that's when my mom left. That's when my mom was like, bye. Stood up, walked outside.
Oh.
And he's still screaming through this whole process, and they take some devices and they insert them, it looks like right under his ears, and then put this thing over around his eye that squirts this milky goopy stuff.
Nothing about this scene is okay.
It's all bad.
It's the color of pus.
It's so gross. It's so gross. And then there's the contraption that they put into his mouth, and they're twisting it down, and the whole view of it, I can't describe it. They have this thing that's coming down towards his face, and he's freaking out, and it turns out to be this needle that's gonna go right into his fucking eye, and then he wakes up at the doctor's office.
Are you fucking kidding me with this shit?
He comes to.
And all I'm saying, I'd rather have them put that shit in my butthole and not my mouth. I can't. That
it would be better than getting a needle in your fucking eye.
Yeah. Oh my god.
He's at the doctor's office. The doctor's like, your brother and your fiance brought you, and we're all here, and you're okay, and you're safe. Then it shows the detective and the sheriff walking out of the doctor's office, and the sheriff's just like, is this gonna be your first unsolved case? The detective is just an asshole, man. And he's just like, I'm just waiting for the real truth to come out. He had 5... The sheriff's like, the doctor seems to really think that he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
And then the detective is just like, well, he had 5 days to come up with a story. He's calling it a hoax, and the sheriff is like, I really don't think it was a hoax.
Mm-mm.
He's just like, well, one day they're gonna slip up. And he's like, I'll be there. He's like, you're gonna come all the way from Montana? And detective's like, I'll come all the way from North Pole if I have to. And it's just like, whatever.
Seriously.
And then they do fast forward. Travis and Dana have a happy home. They have a little boy. And then she's expecting a little girl. And of course, the son's name is Michael. Of course. And he's leaving for work. And he pulls over on the side of the road when he sees a billboard for a motorcycle dealership. And then he decides to turn his car around and go and find Mike Rogers' new home. And he lives all the way up in the sticks, away from everybody. He's got his little cabin. And he pulls up and he's just like, Mike? And then...
Creepy.
Right? And then Mike comes out, and I have a note that homeboy finally has his facial hair together. Because when it wasn't shaved, throughout the movie, his facial hair is a wreck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's got a goatee somehow, but also not, and a mustache, and a soul patch, and it's too much.
It's just like a really sparse, like sporadic beard.
Yeah.
Like, grows in some places, doesn't grow in other places.
But, like, now he has a full beard.
Yeah. And it seems weird that when he had his life together, his beard was shitty. But now that his life is shitty, his beard's so I don't know.
And so it turns out it's only been 2.5 years. I felt like it should have been a lot longer than that.
I know. Like, he bounced back all right.
Yeah.
Like, he seems totally fine.
Yeah. And so Travis says to Mike, he's like, we gotta talk. Let's go for a ride. And they drive out to the spot where everything happened. Mike's like, why'd you bring me here? And then Travis just ignores him and walks off out of the car. And they're talking about, neither of us have had a good night's sleep since that night that we last saw each other. Travis is like, everyone misses you. You're about to be an uncle again. He's like, again? He's like, yeah, little Michael's gonna be 2 years old. And he's like, Michael. And then Travis is all like, man, I never should have gotten out of the truck. And I said...
Finally admits it's his fault.
Exactly. And there's forgiveness all around. And then he's like, we ought to get out of here. I don't want to be here when they come back. And he's like, oh, they won't be back. I don't think they liked me. And
that's what I said.
What sort of line is that?
I was like, because Courtney said something about, so they just brought him back. I was like, I don't think they liked him.
Yeah, I don't think I don't know. That was kind of like, I don't know. Come on!
Weird way to end it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the end. Fiend.
And they all passed their polygraph tests later. Kate, give us some fucking facts, man.
The movie was based off of The Walton Experience by Travis Walton. In the book, he talks about how he was abducted, and then he ended up re-releasing his book as Fire in the Sky to promote the book's connection to the film. Yeah, basically, the abduction scenes in the movie are not like his actual account at all. Scriptwriter Tracy Torme reported that executives found Walton's account boring and insisted on the changes. Roger Ebert, yeah, he feels pretty much the same way as me. You can find on his website. He rated it 2.5 stars out of 5. He said, the scenes inside the craft are really very good. They convincingly depict a reality I haven't seen in the movies before. And for once, I did believe that I was seeing something truly alien and not just a set director's daydreams. However, he felt that, quote, there is not enough detail about the aliens, and the movie ends on an inconclusive and frustrating note. I'm like, yeah!
Yes, agreed.
Critic James Berardinelli, butchering that I'm sure, applauded the, quote, stunning, gut-wrenching realism of the abduction scenes, but he called the film a muddled-up mess that can't make up its mind whether it wants to be horror, drama, or science fiction. And that you can find his full review on preview.realviews.net, and he gave it a 1.5 stars. So this surprised me. For the awards that season, it didn't say any other type of awards that they were nominated for, but they were nominated for 4 Saturn Awards, including Best Science Fiction Film, Best Writing, Best Music, and for Patrick, Best Actor.
Oh, no. Best Writing?
Yeah, so Robert Patrick, Mike, he was nominated for Best Actor.
Wait, and what award?
For the Saturn Awards.
Oh, okay. All right.
So not Oscars.
Okay. I was like, what? Best music?
Yeah.
I mean, the only time it's, like, not scary, suspenseful, like, that sort of music is when, like, Bobby's listening to his fucking radio in the car.
Right.
And, like, during their lunch break.
Yeah. It's like...
Oh, the score.
Yeah. All the stuff that I read previous to this is Wikipedia. Some stuff from IMDb. It says, Walton has always resented this movie, which he says misrepresents his experience in especially the abduction scenes, which bear little resemblance to Walton's account. Also, Tracy Torme mentioned that another reason why they changed it was because his description is so similar to other media portrayals of alien abductions. They wanted it to be different. Which is interesting that that's how all of the others are portrayed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
3 years after the film, he responded to the movie with a book called Fire in the Sky, The Walton Experience. And that was in 1996. And that's to clarify his own accounts of the event. He's also spoken many times about trying to get his story retold on film again. There are rumors that it could be redone.
Really?
Whether those are actual rumors, who knows? The real Travis Walton and Dana Walton make cameo appearances in the scene where the townspeople discuss what to do about Travis's disappearance.
Is she the peasant lady?
I was just about to ask.
I would die. No, I already said her name. It was
that's
Teresa
right.
something.
Oh.
Let's see. It says that there were actually a total of 7 men in the logging crew.
Oh.
The writers whittled them down to 6 for the movie, just not wanting to confuse people with too many characters. Craig Sheffer, he plays Dallas.
Oh, okay.
He was almost fired.
Really?
Yeah, I guess he was nearly fired from the movie. Director Robert Lieberman said that he would often show up late to work on the movie. The other actors and producers were annoyed. The only reason he was not fired was because Robert Lieberman said his attitude adapted to the character well.
So he's a dick cheese in real life.
He's a dick cheese in real life, too. Wow. What a douche.
Right? Oh, God, you really are just a douche. Okay, so Fire in the Sky is a verse from the lyrics of Smoke on the Water. Fire in the Sky.
We should start a band.
Oh my God, I would love that. Director Robert Lieberman said the alien abduction sequence came to him in a series of dreams over the course of 8 months developing the movie. According to director Robert Lieberman, he did not want to cast D.B. Sweeney.
Oh, wish.com, Paul Rudd. Who did he want to cast? Did you know?
I don't think it says. It says with only days away from shooting, the role of Travis Walton was still not cast. Sherry Lansing, CEO of Paramount Pictures, told Robert Lieberman he must cast D.B. Sweeney or else the movie would be canceled.
I wonder if he was like her nephew or something.
He had to sleep to get to the top. So then I really only have one more little thing, and it's from stack.com.au. And there was, I guess, a rapid fire of questions that they were doing with D.B. Sweeney because of the Blu-ray debut. I'm really disappointed in D.B. Sweeney. I guess he didn't meet Travis until after shooting.
Oh, wow.
And he said that he didn't really know much about the real story. He only knew the script.
Get it together, D.B.
I'm
Sweeney.
like, God, like, that's... Mm-mm. And then I am so disappointed that there really isn't anything on the special effects. The only thing that I got was from this article. He said that he was held up by wires for the effects of No Gravity, and he said that the hard part was that he had to contort into the hiding places because of the wires. It made it difficult. Yeah, I really wanted to know what the skin stuff was, what the goop was, what the attachments were. Like, I wish that they had reported on that, and there is nothing.
That is so strange, too.
Oh, also, another thing that bugged me in this article was that he was, like, blaming the lack of success in the movie on a snowstorm during opening week.
What? What?
Like,
D.B. Sweeney needs to get his fucking life together.
Such a little bitch.
And it's like, dude, I don't know.
Like, do better. I'm starting to think that he really is just some guy in a hat.
Yeah.
Well, he was in a bunch of stuff, right? Like,
Oh.
hang on.
He doesn't deserve to be Wish.com's
D.B.
Sweeney.
All right, and that is pretty much what I got. Disappointment in Sweeney and disappointment in lack of information on Goop. And
I wanted to know about the Goop.
Yeah.
And it's true, guys. Like, MK and I looked up stuff, too, when Courtney said that she couldn't find anything. So it's just like, we were looking it up. We can't find... There's not even a damn Reddit thread.
Nothing.
Yeah.
There's not even any sort of blog posts about somebody's feelings on the matter. And we all know that Reddit definitely feels a lot of things about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Unheard of.
Unheard of.
Yeah. Well, it really is a shame because the special effects company that did it also did big time movies like Star Wars.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like you would think because this is part of their history that they would, cover this. And D.B. Sweeney even was like, I was willing to do anything because I knew that this was going to be like some new effects done in movies.
Huh.
So it's
Why
like...
did they not?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Why is it not documented? Document it!
It's the internet. Everything's documented.
It's the fucking internet.
Yeah. You can find pictures
93.
of Pete Wentz's penis. Remember that? Remember when Pete Wentz posted all those pictures of his penis?
What?
It was like years ago. I was probably like 18 or 19.
No.
Me and my cousin looked it up.
Of course.
I mean,
Your cousin. Yay!
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
No. But I mean, I guess 1993, it's not like they were just posting stuff to the internet because that wasn't a thing back then.
But you can also find, like, information from, like, 1873 on the internet, too. Because people generally keep track of shit. Except for the details of the special effects of 1993's masterpiece, Fire in the Sky.
I think.
Okay, real talk.
All right.
Between his book and the movie, the events leading up to the incident are very similar and pretty much spot on. He worked on a crew of 6 men led by Michael Rogers, contracted by the government to clear trees in a state park. One of the men was named Alan Dallas. He did not get along with Walton, and often the two had altercations with each other. So that is true. The other men on the crew had their names changed in the movie. Their real names are John Goulet, Kenneth Peterson, Steve Pierce, and Dwayne Smith, who, fun fact, looks like a baby Justin Long.
Oh my god, totally was.
Last one.
What does it say next to his picture?
The UFO was smooth and was giving off a yellowish-orange light.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear what everyone else had to say about that day?
Mm-hmm.
Steve Pierce had this to say: "That ray was the brightest thing I'd ever seen in my whole life." Kenneth Peterson says, "I saw a bluish light come from the machine, and Travis went flying, like he touched a live wire." John Goulet says, "I know what I saw, and it wasn't anything from this earth."
Oh my god.
Alan Dallas. Oh, by the way, look at Alan Dallas's fucking beard.
Ew, he looks like a dick cheese.
He's got a yucky beard.
That's
you know what?
Definition of neck beard.
Yeah. Ooh. But he said, "We couldn't believe what was happening. The horror was unreal."
Oh, I bet it was.
Michael Rogers in 1975 said, "Now get ready. I've been working these woods for over 10 years, and this is the damnedest thing that ever happened to me." And then in 1995 he said, "I've been working these woods for over 30 years, and this is still the damnedest thing that ever happened to me." And last but not least, Travis has this to say: "If I had to do it over again, I wouldn't get out of the truck."
No shit, Sherlock. Oh my god. I would be so mad.
Oh, God. The craft depicted in the movie shows a shape close to kind of an upside-down bowl shape with a small dome on the flat underside of it, glowing blue, with kind of dark, veiny-looking pattern, shining a red glow all over the immediate area.
The fuck?
I don't know, that's what I saw in the movie.
That's
how it
crazy.
described it.
That's how he describes it, is like how it's shaped in the movie?
Nope.
No, okay.
In his book, Walton describes the craft as being golden in color,
Ooh.
shaped more like a flattened disc, with a small dome on the top side of it, giving off a soft yellow light around the surrounding area, rather than an almost organic-looking underside as depicted in the movie. He described it as having dark stripes over dull silver material, giving it the appearance of having panels.
Wow, so it seems like everybody has a different memory of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
It's very interesting.
Memory is insane.
During the events of the incident, the movie mirrors Walton's words almost to a T. He was compelled to exit the truck and approach the craft, unsure of his own actions, but ultimately reassuring himself that if something went wrong, he could always just run away. Right? Idiot.
God.
Sorry, Mr. Travis, in real life, if you ever listen to this, I just don't think it was a smart idea.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
We're not saying you're not telling the truth. We just don't think you made good decisions.
But it's a hell of a story, I tell you.
Oh, absolutely.
Or is it?
The men in the truck did not come after him, but stayed in the truck, yelling and screaming for him to come back and not get any closer to the UFO. He became very nervous, though, when the ground began shaking violently and a thunderous noise began coming from the craft as it had began shaking, quote, in a pattern like the erratic spin of an unstabilized top. And that's directly from his book. So, like, you know, like a spinning top?
Uh-huh.
How it kind of like wobbles like that on its axis.
Mm-hmm.
He said that it was doing that, and that's
Like
horrifying.
above him?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's weird.
When that started happening, he crouched down closer to the ground as he was shot with the bright blue-green ray of light. Quote, "My mind sank quickly into unfeeling blackness. I didn't even see what hit me, but from the instant I felt that paralyzing blow, I did not see, hear, or feel anything more." So that was the last thing he remembered from prior to waking up in the craft or wherever they were.
What?
Yeah. The events following the incident are also very close to what Walton writes in his book. The men assume Walton is dead and drive away in a panic, damaging the truck while hitting trees, bushes, potholes, and generally driving too fast on dirt mountain roads. Eventually, Mike claims to have seen the UFO fly off and is no longer in pursuit of them. He drives a bit further, and he decides he's going to go back to find Travis. A big difference is that the men did agree to return with Mike to find Travis.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. They said that they were not going to go with him, but the idea of waiting alone in the woods seemed scarier than going back to the actual site. So they decided to go with him.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
I wouldn't want to just be open, like vulnerable.
Yeah.
When something like that is going on.
With all those spooky bird sounds?
Yeah.
As for Travis's time on the UFO, this is where Hollywood has definitely taken some liberties. If I say so to myself, I like what Walton claims as his true experience a lot more than what is depicted in the movie, even though it was terrifying and really creative what they put in the movie. But I kind of just like, because like what you were saying, it is kind of boring, but it's still also like unique.
uh-huh.
Instead of regaining consciousness in a weird goopy skin pod, Travis wakes up very slowly on what seems to be an exam table, feeling as though his whole body has been burned.
Oh.
He's very thirsty and hungry, and upon recalling what had happened to him after approaching the craft, he assumes his crewmates had taken him to the hospital. He starts to become suspicious of his surroundings when he realizes his jacket and shirt hadn't been removed and were just instead pushed up towards his neck. The air in the room is humid and heavy, and he has what he describes as a strange curved device over most of his torso. So I didn't put the whole description because he's very long-winded. So from what I understand, it wasn't holding his arms down, but it was like under his armpits down to about his waist and just like covered his torso.
Oh.
Rather than the strange battle with gravity that ends with him discovering the beings that we see in the movie, Travis was almost immediately met with the aliens upon regaining consciousness. Quote, I was looking squarely into the face of a horrible creature. It looked steadily back at me with huge, luminous brown eyes the size of quarters. Which, I mean, quarters about that big.
That
It
doesn't seem big to me at all.
Yeah, quarters
For
aren't
quarters.
that big.
Yeah, I thought that was weird.
That makes it even worse.
Yeah.
So small and like...
He describes them as being quote-unquote puny, and their bodies having a, quote, sponginess that was more like fat than sinew. Like, at some point, like, I was reading the whole thing, and at some point he, like, grabs one of them, and he was just like, they're squishy. And I was like,
Ew.
I don't know about that. And then he says, I only threw this in because it was clearly a typo, but he said their jumpsuits had a soft, suede-like material. I think it's supposed to be suede, but they forgot the U. They turned the U into a W, but it says suede-like material. I'm like,
and that got through?
yeah. He jumped off the table and attempted to fight the aliens with a glass tube he'd grabbed off of a shelf. They didn't try to fight him back, only seemed to be trying to placate him, their hands up in front of them. He began to lunge at them, and they simply just turned and ran out of the room. Which, I mean, I'd be like, oh, get the manager. I wasn't supposed to wake up.
I didn't want to do this in the first place.
Travis then took this opportunity to try and find a way out of the craft, or at the very least, find a better way to defend himself. He discovered a large room with nothing in it but a large, tall-backed chair facing what appeared to be 3 large panels. He cautiously approached the chair to find no one sitting in it, and the closer he got, the dimmer the room became. So, like, imagine he's, like, against one of the walls, trying to be sneaky, and he sees there's no one in the chair. So as he's approaching the chair, the room is getting darker, and like almost like star patterns are like appearing on the walls. It says the matte gray of the metal walls just faded out to be replaced by the glinting speckled deep blacks of space. which was a quote.
Whoa.
He sat in the chair, which had on its arms controls that gave the impression that it could possibly be used to fly the craft. He messed around with the controls for a bit before deciding not to bother with it, lest he crash the craft or get a lot of them lost.
Wait, so is this the same room that he woke up in?
No, this is a different one.
Okay.
Does he still have that cage on his torso? Or
no. That just, fell off of him.
Oh.
What? Because it wasn't, holding him down.
Oh, it was just there.
Yeah, he said it was a device, and he's make mention of when he jumped off the table to fight the aliens, it fell off him, and there didn't appear to be anything that had it connected to his body.
Oh.
So, there were no, tubes or wires or anything like that.
Maybe it was a scanning device or
maybe.
Something. Interesting.
Of sorts. Okay. That is actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah, it seems like it, because it's on the chest, so you have your heart, your digestive system,
and he was shot I think he said it was straight in the chest, so that would make a lot of sense.
So he sneaks into the control room and nobody's there. What's going on? Where is everybody? They just disappeared? Are they invisible and watching him?
Maybe. Actually, quite possibly, because so he explored the room before heading back to the chair to contemplate it. And then he heard a noise and turned to find another human being standing in the doorway watching him. As he ran up to him, the quote-unquote human said nothing while Travis was just babbling questions and being we gotta get out of here, all this stuff. And he just didn't say anything to him. He just took his arm and led him out of the craft. So they weren't outside. They left the craft that they were on, but they were in this huge room. Almost like a garage, because it was that craft and two other crafts were parked in this giant room. And he was just he finally was it was nice, cool, fresh air in this room, as opposed to the hot, humid shit that was inside the craft. Which would explain why nobody was at the controls, because they weren't flying. They were just parked. That just occurred to me.
Well, that would make sense.
All hands on deck, we got one.
So Travis was led by the man to a separate room down a corridor where they meet two more men and a woman. The men looked exactly like the one leading Travis, and the woman, quote, now this is a true description of a woman, also had a face and figure that was the epitome of her gender. I let that soak in.
Okay. So
she looked like a lady.
So she looked like a woman.
Yeah. But
okay.
I don't know. I was just this guy's not an author. For how long-winded he is, because I'm trying to, condense everything I read from his book.
You're doing great.
Yeah, you're
Thank
doing
you.
awesome.
I appreciate it.
Wait, did you read his book?
I read as much of it as I could find.
Okay.
Which was, maybe 4 chapters.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah. I think they're chapters, but they're at least sections.
There's something.
Wow.
Yeah. He wonders out loud again where he is, and the humans lift him effortlessly onto the table and administer what appears to be an oxygen mask, but there's no tube attached. He describes the only thing attached to the outside was a small black dome that was golf ball sized. He tried to fight them away, but he quickly lost consciousness. And then he was returned. He woke up. So, like I said, it's boring, but it's still pretty unique.
Yeah.
As for his return, it didn't say anywhere that he was naked when he woke up. But that doesn't mean he wasn't. But I feel like if he was, it would have been...
He would have said it.
But he woke up on a road on his stomach, and he describes looking up and seeing the UFO still there, and seeing the reflection of himself and the lines in the road and the shrubs on the side of the road reflected in the UFO above him.
Oh, wow.
And then it flies off. He was in pain and disoriented, but managed to get to an Exxon station payphone and call his sister. And the reason he called his sister is because it was his closest relative who also had a telephone. So, and I had to think about it. I was okay, I guess not everybody had a phone? I don't know.
It was 1975.
Yeah, I guess you could not have a phone.
I mean, They live in a town called Snowflake.
Also, his sister's husband answered, initially unamused by what he assumed was a prank call. Travis halfway convinced him that he was really Travis and gave him his location. And then afterwards, his brother-in-law picked up Travis's older brother and went to go investigate the lead that they had, because they still didn't believe him. And then they found Travis in a glass phone booth at the gas station. So that's all. That was like the end of what I could read from the book, is when they reveal he was just like, oh man, I'm really scruffy. I shaved this morning. And they're like, you've been gone for 5 days.
So that part is accurate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Let me give my...
Did he really not have food or water the whole time?
Yep. He didn't have food or water the whole time.
Did he...
In reality, he only remembered about 2 hours of the 5 days that he was gone.
Oh, shit.
So
Yeah.
they had him unconscious most of the time.
Yeah,
Okay.
it would appear so.
Weird.
So my sources mostly from TravisWalton.com, and then UFOinsight.com, Express.co.uk, and MysteriousUniverse.org are my resources.
So, were they really, arresting them for murder?
Oh, fuck.
Well, I mean...
I don't know if they were arrested, but they definitely suspected that it was, they
that it was,
killed
a
them.
group cover-up type deal.
Yeah.
Oh.
But mostly it's the government contract that is the most common theory that people have.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get into it. An article from express.co.uk entitled Aliens Accidentally Killed Me, but Took My Corpse onto UFO to Save My Life. That was the title. It featured UFO researcher J.P. Robinson, who interviewed Travis Walton at a convention, and it turns out that Travis believed that he was accidentally killed by that beam, and that beam was some sort of like security protection sort of deal. Like, he got too close to the UFO, and it was like some security...
Oh.
Or like a defense thing.
Yeah, like instead of motion light on houses, it will like kill you as well.
Yeah, pretty much. Like if something gets too close, it'll just blast them. And he believes that this was an accident, and the aliens were like, oh shit, and like brought him back to life. And so that's why when he jumped up off the table and was trying to fight him, and they were like, oh,
maybe
God.
that's what that cage was for.
Maybe.
Start his heart back up.
Yeah. Ooh, maybe that's what that was.
Yeah.
And they didn't fight back, and then maybe they assumed a human form so that they could make him calm him down and put him back under.
That's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
Because if they all look the same and the epitome of a woman.
Oh, of her gender, you mean?
Of her gender.
So that's an interesting concept. So it was the epitome of what a woman should be. Wait, oh no. Is that the picture that he described?
It's Travis Walton's perfect woman.
So did they pick that out of his brain then?
I need that.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
I don't know where they got these pictures, because it says under all of these illustrations, image courtesy of Michael H. Rogers. So I'm like, did Mike Rogers draw them? What is he doing with these pictures?
Oh.
They're all as ridiculous as that picture.
Oh no.
I mean, the epitome of her gender. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's...
So I'm assuming that they had some sort of psychic ability.
Yeah.
Because it was his version of the epitome of what a woman
Okay, sorry.
Sorry. Is the guy checking him out while he's checking out the chair? What? If you go to TravisWalton.com, you'll get the whole
I'm
thing.
gonna.
It's great. Okay. He added that it was, quote, an accident and an act of humanitarianism.
Wow.
Okay. It's like when aliens crashed into that guy's plane. They're like, fuck, sorry. You know what? Let's try and cure your cancer.
Oh, God. We don't have any money, but we can cure your cancer, I guess.
We'll tell you that it's a cure, but you're still gonna die. Sorry.
Oh, shucks. This has never happened, I swear. So, on the Travis Walton page on UFOinsight.com, there are lists many on why people believe Walton and his crewmates fabricated the story. This one's like kind of on the lower end of like people believing this. Travis was an avid UFO enthusiast, and commonly with many UFO abductees, their abductions happen more than once in their lifetime, and also usually happens with their blood relatives as well.
What?
And Travis's family members have not reported any such sightings or abductions. And so that's like one, it's like, that guy is lying because it's never happened to his family.
Yeah, but
that's a stretch.
There's got to be a start to it all.
Yeah.
So maybe it was the start of his line.
Maybe. Yeah, that's why I was just like, I'll put it down, but it's not.
It lying.
Doesn't hold a lot of water.
It's like, you're lying because none of your family has ever been abducted.
Because this has never happened to you before. So you're lying.
Oh, yeah. It's to say it won't happen again later. It has to happen the first time.
I know.
We'll find.
In what time gap? Because, I mean, is it 20 years later or is it like 5 years later? Who knows?
Right.
You know? Who's to say he hasn't been picked up again for old time's sake?
Okay.
But here's another thing, though. If those people who have been abducted and their families and all whatever, those are people that were probably planned abductions. His was an accident.
That's true.
So, you know.
Allegedly.
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 We're breaking the case wide open.
It goes all the way to the top.
Some hot takes over here. There's this character, Philip Class. Philip Class has no class. He is an outspoken skeptic on the Walton story. He uses tapes made by ufologist Fred Sylvanus. What he does is he basically picks and chooses lines from the interviews on the tapes. But these interviews were conducted during the days following Travis's disappearance and before his return. So they mostly contain interviews from the crewmates that were panicked and worried, and they're conjecturing and trying to figure out what could have happened. So it made perfect. I use the phrase, it was perfect fodder for a skeptical opportunist. There's so much to pick from.
Yeah.
Class also used the fact that Rogers had requested several extensions to the deadline for the end of their work for the park. And this is probably the most popular, skeptical theory. Suspecting that he was unable to finish the work, Class thinks that Rogers came up with the hoax to get leniency for not finishing the work in a reasonable amount of time. And this sucks. Among other things, Class also cites Walton's admission to smoking cannabis a few times in his youth. Which, nowadays, it's not gonna hold any water, but, in 1975,
yeah,
you say, I smoked weed once, and they're just you're untrustworthy! And he had this unfounded accusation of Walton having served jail time, trying to, some sort of commentary on his character. But what this stemmed from, it was an exaggeration of Walton and his brother having at one point altered paychecks and were declared guilty of fraud. Fraud. But they only served 2 years of probation for that. And they didn't go to jail. In a YouTube video from Finding UFO featuring Travis Walton, he goes around the site of the incident and examines tree stumps with the cameraman. He shows examples of accelerated growth in many of the stumps, lasting about a decade. And it's around the time of, presumably around the time of when the incident happened, that this accelerated growth happens. It lasts for about a decade and then returning to normal growth rate. And in many of the samples, the accelerated growth section of the stumps were also resistant to decay. Over the following decades, Walton and his crewmates would participate in several lie detector tests, most revealing that they had told the truth, a few inconclusive, and none showing signs of deception. However, according to an April 2nd, 2021 article from MysteriousUniverse.com, Michael Rogers posted on his Facebook page a status that reads, I, Michael H. Rogers, being of sound and rational mind, do hereby give notice that I am no longer to be considered a witness to Travis C. Walton's supposed abduction of November 5th, 1975. Further questioning of Rogers does not give a clear view of what exactly he means by this statement, whether it means he knows it was a hoax or simply doesn't want to be involved anymore, but he simply answered comments with, no, it wasn't a scam or a hoax, as far as I know, shit. But you never know. And so, that's the end of my notes.
What?
So, like,
What?
basically, he's just like, no, it wasn't a hoax, but is it?
But it could have been.
But it could have been. You never know. You never know.
Maybe he's just wanting more attention.
I don't know.
No, they wouldn't.
It
want
wasn't
in
a
the first place.
scam or hoax as far as I know.
As far as I know. Or maybe it was someone, like, he meant it in a way, like, someone created this elaborate scheme, so it was a hoax to them.
Right.
But he was just the victim?
I don't know.
I don't know, that doesn't make sense. You just sat there and told us that this really happened.
And now you're saying it didn't?
Yeah.
Or he's, I mean...
I
he's-
rescind my...
Yeah.
Whatever.
Like, he didn't rescind his statement, or he didn't deny anything, but he just stated that he can't be considered a witness anymore.
That is bizarre.
Wait, that's Mike that said that?
Yeah, Mike Rogers.
Okay. So that makes sense. I thought it was Travis saying that.
Oh, no.
Because,
Oh,
I
God,
mean,
if it were Travis who said... No, he's still going strong.
yeah. So, yeah, I guess he's like, well, I it could have been, like...
Yeah.
I wonder if it's so that he'll stop using his name in his stories.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, enough is enough. Like,
Yeah. That almost makes you wonder if... Because they changed all the other names, but not Mike's, Travis's, and Alan. Alan Dallas. I
Oh.
wonder how he feels about it.
Yeah, I can see Mike being just like, I don't think it was a hoax, but sometimes people do fucked up shit out of the blue.
Right.
So-
okay, I have another question. Is Mike and Travis, are they brother-in-laws?
Oh, I guess that would make them brother-in-laws.
Like in real life, that's
Yeah.
a thing?
Because
Okay.
that's...
That's who he married? Dana?
Yeah, because you said Dana Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's just like sick of Travis talking to him about it. Like,
Oh,
you know what?
maybe. Maybe he just moved into the mountains and they never saw each
Yeah.
other again.
There it is.
Fire in the sky, y'all.
Yeah,
And all of the confusing shit that goes along with it.
Let's do some Oreos and pickles, yeah? Oreo and a pickle.
This way.
Oreos and
This
this
week,
week we're eating pickles. All right. Oh, we gotta wait for.
Oh,
I gotta get mine. Here we go.
All right.
alright.
And
Salud.
Salud.
Slosh. Huh.
That's not bad.
I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't want to spit it out, so that's a good
Yeah.
thing.
No.
These are good pickles.
Thank you. Did you make these? I bought them.
Oh.
And then I sliced them up.
At first I didn't like it, but then I did.
Yeah. Worth a try.
Yeah.
It's
I
not...
give it a 5. 5.
I might give it a 6.5.
Okay. Okay.
Because
I'm
it's
gonna
almost
give it-
like less vinegary and more salty. You get that
Mhm.
salty sweet.
Hang on, I just want a pickle.
As I say, that's why I made a ton of them. Because I was like, I'm going to want pickle.
Try it.
Yeah.
Try it.
Recommend. Wrap us up.
All right, y'all. Thank you for listening. Please rate, review, and subscribe. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Our theme song is written and performed by Paul, and you can find his band Pathos and Logos on Instagram at pathos.logos. You can come and follow us on Instagram at inspiredbymoviespod and on Twitter at inspiredby_pod. We're on YouTube at Inspired by Movies, the podcast. And now we are on TikTok also. You can find us on TikTok by our name Inspired by Movies, the pod, all one word. And also, we have a Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/inspiredbymovies. You can also email us if you have any feedback, if you have good feedback, if you have not as great feedback, but you were constructive about it. Please don't make us cry. You can email us at inspiredbythepodcast@gmail.com. And as Courtney's junior high vice principal has always said,
make it a great day or not. The choice is yours. Goodbye.
Goodbye.